Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud, and I interview industry changers from across the globe about their past, present, and futures in business, innovation, and life. I enjoy helping people build their portfolios and bring out the authenticity of their business. Let's get started with today's guest. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. I have a very, very special innovator for the show today. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from?
I'm Guy Morris. I'm calling from Bellevue, Washington.
Thank you for joining the show today, and you're in human form. I just wanted to go ahead and dig into your past leading up into your present, though.
I tell everybody I have a very eclectic past. I'm a little bit of a mishmash of everything. I actually started off my journey as a homeless runaway at age 13. I was on the streets of LA. I worked with migrant workers for a few years. I ultimately got my GED. But by the time I was 20, I was already married. I had a toddler, and I had to figure out how to actually make a living. So through a series of what I consider a miracle, I got the chance to go back to college, was able to earn multiple degrees. In part of college, one of my biggest accomplishments in life was that I built a macroeconomic forecast model. This is a big, giant computer forecasting model with lots of algorithms and data, very complicated and boring. But I outperformed the Federal Reserve. That caught their attention. It caught a number of banks' attentions. I got a scholarship. I got a job at IBM, and that kicked off a 38-year career in Fortune 500 companies.
Wow. Can you tell me, for those who don't know, how did you do the algorithm and the systems to beat the Federal Reserve? Like, if you can tell us what you can.
The main thing that I did that wasn't being done before, and this was not something that any of the economic models had envisioned up until that point, was what was the productivity value of technology on the economy? Mm-hmm. We could track that, company, that X millions of dollars of hardware were sold and X millions of dollars of computer consulting were sold, but we weren't really tracking what did they do with that? What kind of new businesses were they starting? What kind of productivity were they gaining? What kind of worker ratio to revenues were they experiencing? What was this doing to change the fundamentals of our business environment and our economy? And it was the beginning of the digital economy. And that's important because we're now ready to start a new one with AI. We're going to be starting another major cycle of productivity advances in AI. And it's until we realize what that curve looked like, some of the models are going to be off. But at the time, they weren't envisioning anything like that because they didn't really have an idea how to do it. I came up with some algorithms and some ideas and what data to use, and it actually worked. I was 0.1% off the actual numbers, which blew everybody else away by about 2 or 3 times.
Congratulations on that journey. We got so much to talk about. Can we go ahead and dig into your 2 books, and then we'll talk about AI in a second?
Oh, my 2 books. Well,
many books.
Well, there's actually 3 published right now. I'm working on the 4th novel, which will be out hopefully this year, and I've got a book proposal for a nonfiction book called Humanity in an AI Tsunami: A Survival Guide. And there's really I write thrillers, and because I love the Dan Browns and the Michael Crichtons and the James Rawlings, people who can take real history, real technology, real events, and create a great narrative out of them, so that you almost want to go back and read something afterwards that says, okay, how much of this was true and how much of this was fiction? And so that's what I really love to do. Now, the first 2 books are part of an artificial intelligence, political, religious corruption series. That book started with Swarm and the follow-up book, The Last Ark. Swarm won the Gold Award for Reader's Favorite, and Last Ark won the Silver Award. So I won the top 2 spots for both of those books, and I'm working on the 3rd now, called The Image. The inspiration for those came when I discovered, actually by accident, that a program had escaped the NSA spy labs at Sandia. It wasn't lost, it wasn't stolen, it didn't break. The program escaped. And while that sounds outrageous and almost sci-fi, when I figured out how a program could escape an NSA spy lab and why they would design it that way, they sent 2 FBI agents to my door.
Oh, wow.
Now, they were a little bit freaked out that I had figured out something they thought was supposed to be top secret. What bothered them more was my snarky attitude. I was giddy. I was like, yes, yes, I did it. I figured this out. Oh, man, this is so cool. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, come on, admit it, boys. You wouldn't be here if I was wrong. I'm going to tell all my friends. Wasn't exactly the response they were looking for. Um, After I got the "We are not amused" speech from them, then my wife came home, pulls me aside, wants to know why there's 2 FBI agents in my dining room and what did I do. So that was it was such an incredible experience for me that I started saying, first off, I said, okay, I got to write a book about this. And then secondly, I really want to know more. I wanted to know more about how governments are using the technologies that we were producing for commercial purposes. I had to kind of put almost like my James Bond Q hat on and try to think about, okay, Mr. Bond, what would if how are we going to build your cyber tool today? And that really got me more involved in how technologies are being used for malicious purposes, not just in the U.S. but around the world. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to write the book, was to help raise this for people to understand and see what's going on around them in plain sight, while we're off doing all of our fun things. But do it in an entertaining way, right? Michael Crichton, when he wrote the book Jurassic Park, was trying to make a statement about the dangers of DNA manipulation and cloning.
Yeah.
That what happens when we have a super powerful technology and it clashes with people of power who want wealth and money and are malicious. The same problem is going to happen with AI, in that while it's an incredibly powerful, good technology in many ways, there's a lot of potential for misuse and for things to go wrong. And I'm trying to kind of ask those simple questions. Gee, what can go wrong? Now, the third book is a completely different book. It actually was a historical thriller called The Curse of Cortez. And that book took me 12 years to research the history, the archaeology, and the Mayan mythology behind the story.
But it is true.
It, based on all that 12 years, was trying to find out true. And I was trying to solve a mystery. The mystery was that in 1672, Henry Morgan raided the city of Panama, took 36 ships, 2,000 men. Half the men died in the whole adventure. But Morgan conquered the city. It was the richest city in the New World. Brought back over 35 tons of plunder worth well over $1 billion, maybe $1.5 billion, 600 slaves. But when he got to his fleet, he cheated all of his men and disappeared with almost everything on 3 ships that were never seen again. But Morgan survived and was ultimately knighted and made lieutenant governor of Jamaica. But when he had the power to go back and get his $1 billion plunder, he went insane, went into this haunted, drunken debauchery and burned his logbooks so the world would never know why he had abandoned $1 billion. It took me 12 years to connect the dots between that insanity to events that led all the way back to the origins of the Mayan creation myth. Really amazing book that has history, archaeology, mythology, humor, romance, paranormal. It's a summer blockbuster movie on print. That's my wife's favorite book. Book Trip called it one of their favorite 25 books of 2021. They called it Indiana Jones Meets Da Vinci Code.
Well said. Did your wife influence any of those books that you wrote?
She is a character in The Curse of Cortez, a archaeologist named Darcy O'Sullivan, she, a fiery, strong-willed woman that it creates a lot of humor. She actually read the character, and I asked, do you mind if I use your name? And after she read the character, she said, "No, I don't mind." You know, I'm sure it would have depended on how that character was written, but I think I got away with it.
Cool. Okay, now, drum roll. Can we please talk about what you know about artificial intelligence?
Oh my gosh, to say what I know about AI we don't have enough time. I can say this: it's the most powerful technology ever created by humans, and for some of us in the field, has the potential of being more dangerous than nuclear power. And one of the reasons I would say that is we've never had, no matter how powerful the nuclear bomb was, we've never had a nuclear bomb that could recreate its own self. And we now have AI that know how to code, that know how to correct and rewrite their own coding, that talk to other AI in ways that we don't really fully understand, that rewrites its own code in ways we don't fully understand, and could technically replicate and create another AI. And so we're now at a point where we've got an intelligence equal to our own that's quickly becoming equal and will soon be superior to our own. So the current version of GPT-4, which is what ChatGPT is based on, has been tested with an IQ of about 155. Now that's pretty high. That's 5 points less than Einstein, smarter than 99+% of the people on the planet. And if it continues to grow at the rate that it's growing, which is 10 times every version, we're now looking at a computer with, by the end of 2024, that will have an IQ of close to 1,000, basically smarter than any person on the planet. Now,
Crazy.
that is crazy. Now, right now, it's procedural. It doesn't have its own will. But there are also scientists that are working on the avenue for what it would take to make an AI conscious or self-aware. And so what we will have within the next probably 3 years is a super intelligent machine, smarter than anyone on the planet, who starts to become self-aware and starts to gain its own will. And do we know what that means? The answer is no. Matter of fact, one CEO of an AI company called Stability AI, his name is Edmund Mustach, calls it the event horizon. From him, the event horizon is that point in time where we no longer can predict what's going to happen, right? Event horizon is part of a black hole. And so as it goes over the event horizon of a black hole, we don't know what happens inside a black hole. It's impossible to predict. Well, he likens that to what's happening with AI right now. He believes that we're within 3 years of that event horizon.
Tell me about AI hallucinations. We talked,
Yeah.
before the show. Tell me.
So there's a number of fundamental technology challenges with AI right now. One of them is what we call hallucinations. And while we can train AI, and it really comes from training and how AI is being trained, but and we find it most often in large language models, but in other models as well. A hallucination is where the AI basically generates something. Let's say you ask it for a text to describe the legal laws surrounding property rights or intellectual property. And it could write you an incredibly well-written text that sounds perfectly real, except it could make up some information out of the blue. Come up with the name of a law that doesn't exist, come up with a law that was passed in such and such date that didn't happen. It's good at creating language that sounds perfectly correct, except that the information behind it is incorrect. And so that's a major issue. So that's okay if you're a high school student asking it to create a first draft of a paper and you're going to correct it. It's a bad thing if we're relying on that information as it's printed and it gets used. And matter of fact, MSN recently had a problem with this. They fired a whole bunch of their editors, decided that they were going to have AI write their content, and within 2 days they got flooded with complaints about the errors. And so this is a training issue with AI that we're still trying to solve.
Now, the hallucinations with AI, is there any way that they have a meaning behind the meaning? Because AI is pretty smart. So what if there was a meaning for that segment or that section, but it wasn't about what you asked it about?
Those are actually called emergent properties. That's
Okay.
where the AI trains itself to do something that we didn't really anticipate it would need to go. A very simple example of this, and one of the famous ones in the industry, was about 2014, Google created a program called Alpha Master.
Okay.
And Alpha Master was there. We have the game called chess, right? Which and IBM, Big Blue IBM, beat the reigning chess master in 2008. Well, in 2014, Google said, well, could we do this with the Chinese game Go, which is a much more complicated game? And so they started by basically learning from the master, the reigning Go master of the world, all of his best moves and what his strategies were and how does he play the game, and teaching the program to play the game the way he played the game. And it took about a year of training to get that program to learn. Well, then Google came along and said, well, what if we let the computer just learn on its own? What if we basically said, here's the rules to the game, and here's maybe a little bit more information of your goal is to win, and let it run simulations. Let it just basically teach itself what works, what doesn't work. Well, within a single month, that AlphaGo, that second AI, was able to beat the first AI. Now, the first AI was able to beat the master within a month. It took a year. Within a month, the
Wow.
second one was able to beat the first one 100% of the time because it had invented some moves that nobody had ever thought of. Matter of fact, there's this famous move called the move number 37, where everyone went, "That's not going to work. Why is it doing that? That's a mistake. It's going to lose the game." But it turned around to be key to winning the game. And we had never envisioned it, but because it ran millions of simulations, it figured it out. And so there's going to be things that the computer's going to do that are way different than we ever imagined, that are actually going to be things that solve the problem that we never could figure out how to do.
Well said. Well
Yeah.
said, Guy. I have another question that I
Mhm.
asked you out there. It was about taking artificial intelligence into a water solute in a medicine type form and injecting and making having it go into our DNA.
Mhm.
And my next question after that, that is conjoined, is how can we mix that so we can be able to learn everything off of YouTube? Because, like I told you, our whole life we cannot learn YouTube. And some people, it's different genres, and
Mhm.
we cannot learn in a lifetime. So, what is the solution to that, and how do you feel?
Well, if you read 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your entire life, you probably consume about 8 billion words.
Wow.
A computer, an AI, can consume 100 billion words uh, every other day.
Okay.
And so, computer's always going to be so much faster than we're ever going to be. There's so much information in the world. There's no way that as a human we're ever going to be able to consume it all, which is one of the reasons we're trying to build these intelligent machines to do things that are beyond our human capacity. Just like we find machines that can see wavelengths of light that we can't see or hear frequencies that we can't hear. We're constantly trying to find the boundaries and expand the boundaries of what our human capabilities are, including finding multiple dimensions. And so AI, one of the values of AI is that it can handle massive, massive amounts of information. We're talking in the next version of GPT-5, probably within a couple of years, we'll have 100 trillion different data tokens attached to that. Our brains cannot handle that much. And
Understood.
so there are people speculating with trying to create intelligent nanos that could then be put into a liquid form and injected. We really don't know what the outcomes are going to be and how to make sure that the nanos basically attach to brain functions and then operate the way we think they will within a brain function. So there's a lot of sci-fi what if types of conversations there. I don't think that's a viable technology in the short term.
Understood.
What will be a viable technology in the short term is having an AI agent on your phone and having a personal assistant that knows your schedule and knows your voice and knows your shopping preferences and can do your grocery shopping for you and can manage your schedule for you and set up appointments for you and do other things and research for you to say go find research on such and such a topic and have it come back with accurate information without the hallucinations. And so that's having sort of a personalized AI agent. It could be your counselor, it could be your friend. You could have emotional issues, and it could tap into um, um, empathetic models that can basically talk things out with you. So we're teaching AI to do almost every task that humans can do. We're now getting to the point where AI are doing many of those tasks better than humans.
Well said. And tell us about Neuralink. And
Neuralink is a specific technology that Elon Musk is working on where he wants to create a digital link directly into the brain, actually would wire into the brain itself, and would create some of this sort of hybrid computer to brain sort of technologies. Now, there's a lot of issues with the Neuralink, and right now it's proving good in a good way, which is helping quadriplegics be able to who to have no control over their bodies to use their thoughts to manage a computer or manage a specific device, which is power for them, major powers, and it's just gotten approved from the FDA to do human testing, so they're just at the very early stages of testing.
so it's like in phase 1 right now.
Well, yeah, very, very early phase, for example,
Okay.
yeah. And we don't know what the negatives are. We don't know if there's negative impact to the brain. We don't know if there's side effects to that would come over time. We don't know if it would cause any sort of electronic fatigue by having the impulses into the brain that way. Right now, the tests are looking positive, and I think for specific medical applications, I think it is a viable technology to be exploring. As a general interface for humanity into computers, I see problems with that because our brains are amazingly complicated,
Hmm.
but they're not even a fraction. They're not even like a tenth of a percent as fast as computers, and so you get data transference rates that could cause real problems. We don't know what that's going to do.
Okay, and can you tell me, because we were talking about this before the show, about the data breach at the airport with facial recognition? Explain that.
Yeah. So digital security is going to be one of the most important aspects of all of this moving forward, and there's conversations around quantum cryptology and a number of other aspects of security. But right now, there's a number of people that want to use facial recognition, thumbprints, iris scans as a biometric for their security. Now, I'm firmly against it, and for one reason is all of that information has to be stored on a server. Any server can be hacked. Case in point, a company called Clearview basically uses facial recognition to process people going through the airport. If you're a frequent traveler and you don't want to stand in airport security lines, that's a big benefit. The problem is that Clearview was hacked a few years ago. 2.1 million facial identities were stolen and sold on the dark web.
No
That means
way.
2.1 million people will never be able to retrieve and own their facial identity. That means somebody could digitize that. They can find another application that uses it. They could replicate a passport for you. You don't own that. Now, if it were a password, that's a pain in the butt when your password is stolen. But you can always reset your passwords. If I steal your facial identity, your digital identity, that's something you're never going to get back, and you're never going to be fully in control of. So yeah, facial identities, digital biometrics, until we can create unhackable servers, um, they're problematic. And over the last 10 years, over 10 billion identities have been hacked and stolen. Most of those have been sold on the dark web. Companies or countries like Russia, China, Iran are buying them because they want to figure out a way to take those identities and weaponize them. They don't want to just come after Kimberly to harass Kimberly or Guy to harass Guy. They want to create a weaponized version that can take down hundreds or tens of millions of accounts at a time to disable the nation at a critical time. So, and we're doing the same thing. We've got ways of taking down the Russian power grid and the Chinese power grid. We're working on similar types of
Because it's a
applications.
national security threat.
This is
In
an
under
international
two
security threat.
minutes, tell
Yeah.
me real quick, because we're running out of time. You said that the AI, if it's like a bot or whether it's an AI system, if like Russia do hacking on our system, there's ways to go around it where it would not be traceable, and we would be hacked, which is a national security threat.
Yeah, the Department of Defense, the RAND Corporation, sent a report to the Department of Defense about 3 years ago, and one of the top 10 national security risks that was on there is something called data poisoning. Data poisoning, since all AI are built on massive, massive amounts of data. One way to sabotage an AI that would be untraceable would be to find a way to introduce bad, false, faulty data into that mix. And there was a hack called the SolarWinds hack about 2 years ago, and that hack came through a normal software update. So it bypassed all of the normal security that we have on our firewall to get into a network. It went through a normal software update and was there for 9 months before somebody discovered that it was there by accident. And so there's leaks in our infrastructure that says somebody can introduce faulty content through these update, and that update affected 18,000 corporations and 8 major U.S. agencies. Was there for 9 months before anyone even had an idea it was made, and we don't know what other ones have been sent out using the same distribution method.
One last thing, how can we try to trace undetectable, intelligence, like negative artificial intelligence that seeps through our systems?
Right now, we do not have controls over adequate controls legally, technology-wise, or internationally over managing malicious uses of artificial intelligence. The same platform that created ChatGPT, also was the platform for products called Evil GPT, Fraud GPT, Worm GPT, Darkbird. These are all dark web sold products that are AI products specifically designed to use the power of AI to write more powerful malicious code faster. And so as we're growing AI, the ability for criminals and other people who want to use it maliciously is growing as well. And we're not ahead of that curve. We're basically following that curve. So we will see an increase in AI crime before we find ways of correcting that through AI other mechanisms to correct it.
In under 2 minutes, can you tell me, because I would like to know, in order to sit up there and find out how to counter these weaponries, I'll just say it, we need to find out what they're doing on the dark web, and how they're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk.
Resources.
We're going to talk in 6 months. So go
Resources.
ahead.
When Christopher Wray went before Congress about 6 months ago, one of the things he told Congress is that we needed more budget. And
Yes.
Congress has been trying to slash the budget. Republicans have been trying to slash the budget of the Homeland Security, FBI, which at a critical time. Wray told Congress that he was outmanned 50-1 from the Chinese in terms of their ability to produce bad content versus his ability to catch it. That's just with China alone. That doesn't include Russia, Iran, North Korea, or the other countries that are trying to use malicious software against us.
Well
So part
said.
of it is we have to allocate the budget and prioritize security.
Thank you so much. I'm going to have you back on in 6 months, but how can the people reach you? Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. This has been such a joy, so much fun. An easy way to start is GuyMorrisBooks.com. You can find buy links. You can get review highlights from the reviews. I've been compared to Dan Brown, Robert Ludlum, Maestro Hansen, and others. You can get fact versus fiction pages, my press kit, my expert reel, lots of content on the page.
Thank you so much, Guy.
Thank
You
you.
take care.
You too. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Bye.